Hello, boys and girls. We're back again. We're doing another episode. Can you believe it? I believe this is episode 6, maybe 7. And today I'm joined by a longtime friend and supporter of myself and the Top Strength Project, Leo Cormier of Recovery CBD. Thanks a lot for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Glad to be here.
So just kind of a bit of kind of what we're looking to get into today. So with the explosion of, CBD products, kind of how all that came to be, before marijuana started to slowly become legalized in certain states here and there. Just kind of really interested on, before you got into the CBD industry, I understand you were I started at Boston Sports Club. That was kind of my first training job, Boston Sports Club here in Providence, Rhode Island. I believe you were up in the management position up in Boston.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
So we kind of came from a similar starting point. So if you don't mind, talk a bit about how you came into the fitness industry, how you ended up at Boston Sports Club, and what made you decide to transition into the CBD industry.
Sure. Yeah, love to. So I started at Gold's Gym. I didn't go to college out of high school.
Where at?
Nashua, New Hampshire. So that was the first one that I worked. And I loved it. I mean, it was 1999 or 2000. The gym was just rocking. I had a great time. I was making good money in sales.
Is that what you're doing, membership sales?
I was doing membership sales. I happened to start in January, so that became a little bit of
It's a strong start.
a strong start. But I really
Is this what it's going to be like? And then it's like March, you're like, fuck.
June,
I got a bartend.
July, yeah. But I love being around the gym. I loved helping people, and being part of what people were doing. And I had been working out at that point for 5 or 6 years. It was something that was really important to me. So,
How old were you in 99?
in '99, I was 19. So from there, I had some other sales jobs, which really brought me back to I don't like sales. I liked working in fitness, and I did well in that because I enjoyed
It's an interesting scenario because it is sales. What we do is sales, but I definitely don't consider myself a salesperson at all. When I hear, and I don't like look into this, but the brief amount that I've heard about like sales culture, things like cold calls and certain ways to articulate the way you speak, basically to kind of, it's manipulation essentially. But in fitness, if you're about it, it's like you're just trying to be like, hey, check this shit out.
Right.
I like it. It's
Right.
a little more authentic. So it is sales, but really we're trying to sell something that we're passionate about.
Yeah, well, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. I've met some of the best, most educated trainers that I've ever seen, and they can't transfer that emotion in a sales process to a potential client. So if you don't at least have that baseline of skill, then you don't get to use any of the tools that you've worked on, to get that person involved. People would come with all these certifications and degrees, like, oh, this guy's great. He knows everything. He's going to do great. And then it's just talking over people's heads, the whole time.
And it's also like, dude, do you know what this feels like? Because that's a huge component. And of course, there's the physical component of fitness, but there's also the psychological, and that's something that you could be taught. I mean, I don't have a background in psychology, but it's going through the trials and tribulations of training, the ups and downs, that I think would be lacking in that situation, no matter how many acronyms he or she might have after his name, right? His or her name.
Absolutely. Honestly, for most of my career in fitness with trainers, I looked for a solid certification and some type of customer service background. Those are the people that did really well, switching from the restaurant industry, which is a grind. A lot of those skills transfer. And if you've gotten a good certification and have been passionate about it, those are the people I've seen really, be pretty successful with it. Not the ones that, there's a place for people that are highly educated like that. It's just not your regular on the corner gym, with your regular user coming in.
Yeah, they would probably be more appropriate to train trainers.
Right.
And you hit a point that I bring up a lot when I speak to people who want to come on as trainers or who say they want to be personal trainers, or just when they're asking what it's like to be in this industry. I would say if you have one guy that literally knows everything about training, adaptation, exercise, nutrition, like literally knows everything, this like computer of a human, and then you have this other guy that knows, let's say, 10% of what the brainiac knows, if the 10% guy is able to be relatable and communicate his 10% more effectively than this guy can do his 100, he's the guy that's going to be successful in the industry. It's so much more about interpersonal relationships, like you said. I think I share your kind of same experience where it's like you're around like-minded people in a gym setting, and you're kind of like, I like this. I can get used to this. You feel kind of a part of something. It's more. It's so much more about being relatable and for lack of a better word, likable when it comes to building a customer service based business in this industry, be it training or I'm sure with a CBD company that you do
Yeah,
now.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. So when you talk about sales too, man, when I started, it was, the lead boxes had to go out. There was like things that you could not ask an entry level employee to do, literally like are illegal, but also things that just people wouldn't do today. I'll never forget. There was a Saturday in like June. It was summer. It was typically pretty slow, but I had 12 membership sales in the morning, and I'm proud of myself. 12 is a big day. So the owner walks in. I tell him, Chris, we got 12 sales today. He looks me dead in the face. Says, how many of them were your appointments? Mine haven't shown up yet today. He says, I've sold 12 memberships. Are you gonna punch in and do your job today? And that was just the sales mentality. That everything was it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was fitness sales really was got to one of those things. It was a really bad name. Bally's at that time had been doing those long contracts with people. So yeah, when you talk about sales getting that sort of negative connotation to it, that's the pressure that management would put on for sales numbers and all that, everything driven behind it. Yeah, we just as we talked about before too.
It's challenging, especially when you're in that middleman position. It's like you're trying to speak to somebody, you're trying to sell them a membership to the gym, and unfortunately, you can find yourself being a bit more pushy than you'd probably like to be because you have the guys upstairs coming down on you. You have numbers to hit, this, that, and the other. They're up your ass all the time. How big of a facility, how big of a gym was the Golds that you started at back in '99?
I want to say it was a full service club, group fitness, kids club. So I want to say it was around 40,000 square feet or so.
40,000?
Yeah.
This is 89, so that's almost 5 times. That's a big club.
Yeah, it was a big club.
How big was your membership?
That club was rocking. I don't know what the numbers were, but they did fine.
I would say
it was the heyday of Gold's Gym. So.
Yeah, BSC was probably 15 or 20,000 square feet, and they had, I think, they floated between 2,000 and 2,200 members.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you were between probably 5 and 7 or more.
Yeah, probably somewhere around that because they were, they were in contracts, so you had members that had to stay longer than they even wanted to be there or use the club, and there just wasn't the options. It was, in '99, it was Worlds, Powerhouse, Golds. That was pretty much it. You had some, some one-offs, local gyms here and there, but it certainly wasn't the options that you have today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of that big box gym model or bust,
Right, yeah.
And when I was in college, this is back in 2005, 2010, it was still, that was still kind of the norm because I took a course called PI, Planning, Implementation, and Evaluation of Exercise Programs. It was basically a class about opening your own gym. And I, after taking that course, never wanted to open a gym less in my life because you talk about, the big box gyms, the cost, all the cardio. I mean, it's millions and millions of dollars, tons of liability, and just a huge monthly nut to cover. And it really wasn't until the explosion of CrossFit when you started seeing all of these warehouse style, $20,000-$30,000 spaces where you could make 3, 5, 6,000 square feet work because that different kind of take on fitness, the more specialized approach kind of erupted. And now, I mean, it's so much different now. This is kind of a cross between the two, the Top Strength Project, where it's 9,000 square feet. We have a membership, but very, very light contracts. I'm not trying to have 5,000 members. I'm trying to have 500. It's truly a quality over quantity business model. And I would say it's kind of the antithesis of your Planet Fitnesses, where they open their doors, they want to sell 5,000 or 10,000 memberships at $10 a piece at pre-sale, and then just collect the money. Where If you don't want to come here, no problem. It's all good. I'm more interested in having 400 to 500 people that want to be here, that will pay the $60, $70 a month, help, join and take advantage of our specialized services than having, a huge membership, most of which, like you said, aren't even coming.
Right, right.
So how long were you at Gold's?
I was there about a year before, I said I went into some different sales. And, like I said, I found that I did okay in sales, but I really needed to be around doing something that I liked. So I really bounced my career around quite a bit. I started with a company called Lifestyle Family Fitness in North Carolina that eventually got acquired by Lifetime Fitness. So I wound up working for Lifetime for a few years in that process, and that
It's
was
Lifetime. They have a gym in the Boston area. It's like
Yeah.
a mecca.
Yeah.
It's like a shopping mall.
Yeah, that's their thing, and that's one thing I actually learned from their founder when he started that. One of his initiatives was to just take all your excuses away. Every excuse that somebody had, we have towel service. We're open 24 hours. We have every group fitness class you can imagine. We have every piece of equipment you can imagine. And because he's really truly passionate about fitness, he really, they do a great job. But it's a grind. At the time I was there, they were still a publicly traded company. The acquisition was something that was even harder, to work through because it didn't go how everybody had planned. And I wound up leaving and coming back to Boston. I'm from Massachusetts, and that's where I started with BSC. So I did a couple more years with BSC. Still, I eventually figured out what my problem is, and I don't like to be told what to do. And so I was with these companies pursuing these promotions and trying to get to, further in my career. And everything's fine when you're performing at your job, especially at a club level, right? If you don't do everything they tell you, but you bring all the numbers that they want, they let that slide. But what I finally realized was that if you want that promotion, there's that bend the knee moment with all those companies, because it's not about how you can perform. It's making sure that you're the person that's going to toe that company line at the next level. When we talked about some of the things we've seen in the fitness industry, and I would always be sort of that middleman between the corporate office and my members and my sales team. The pressure, the stuff that would come down, I would try to absorb that and still create a good experience for my staff and my members and do what we could to get it done. They don't want that at the district level. They want the person that's going to make sure that the pressure is applied, that's going to toe that company line. And it really took me going out and working for myself and analyzing that structures, because it was never a matter of talent. I watched people that had less talent, had less performance, but they don't tell you, hey, we asked you for those 3 projects that we didn't really care what the outcome was. We wanted to make sure you did it the way you were told. And so that in now working for myself, again, I get to do what I'm passionate about. I get to do what I want. I get to do it my way. And there's obviously never that moment of someone telling me what to do. But that is what really ground me down in the fitness industry, because I would bounce from these jobs. I'd have a great resume for a general manager job. We talk about a promotion. As time would go by, I think I probably told 90% of my bosses to fuck themselves at some point or another. And they can't do anything about it from that position, right? I do a good job. They can't fire me because I probably wasn't totally wrong, because a lot of these companies just weird shit happens.
Well, in their defense, they probably have guys above them breathing down their neck too.
Yeah, no, so you see, it's really becomes like a matrix of compliance that is really what becomes important. So, I'm very happy things worked out the way they did. I moved to North Carolina, took a job down there, and when my son was born,
Back in North Carolina, right? Because that's where the Lifetime company was.
Yep. So I've moved around quite a bit too. So I've lived in 6 states, half the New England states at this point. So we went and took a job there, and the hours of those positions too, that's a whole other thing of the amount of time that's put in.
So you're most likely salary.
So I wound up mostly salary at that position. There's, they have a salary and then they have a performance, with all those positions. And this particular one, I just, the performance just kept, the goalpost kept moving. Things just kept changing. And, that ended up where I got a particular paycheck. I remember looking at it and I just said to myself, this is how much money it takes to rent you away from your family. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
And really like got, the next day I gave my notice. And the only option there was to really start over. So when I had visited my wife's family, they're from Maine, I had noticed that the cannabis industry was just much different there.
Where are we time-wise now, like 05,
So
04?
no, now we're up to 2018.
All right.
We made a couple leaps. Those jobs I stayed with, many of them
For
a long
a while,
time.
yeah, okay.
3 years, 5 years, 7 years. There was, so 2018 we moved to Maine because I had seen, the stores just, when you go to one of these cannabis stores in Mass, or if you've been to one around here, you can tell it's a big operation. It takes a lot to. I saw a sheet on a guy's house with a marijuana leaf on spray paint that said "cannabis here." It was a store. I'm like, okay, I think I can get into this here. I think this is worth. So the original plan was to just get into the industry and kind of see where it went in a few years, where that experience would go. Because obviously it's been coming down the line that this is going to be federally legalized.
CBD we're talking, not cannabis.
No,
as a
I'm
whole.
talking cannabis. Sorry.
All right. So CBD, had CBD been federally legalized yet in 2018?
It was in 2018 that happened.
All right.
It was available, but it hadn't really been ruled on. You could get it, but it was kind of like pro hormones. They're always kind of trying to move around and avoid the FDA and this and that. So 2018, with the Farm Bill, finally federally legalized hemp-derived CBD products with less than 0.03% THC.
Okay.
So.
And before we started recording, you made a really kind of strong point where you found that the stuff was really only available in not a place you would want to buy a product to treat things like chronic pain, anxiety, depression. You want to be able to speak to somebody in somewhat of a private setting, not have three guys behind you trying to buy gas.
Right. Yeah. I mean, where did you see this when it popped up? Is gas stations, is vape shops, it's places in parts of the city that you don't want to go, or you don't want to go and get something for your grandmother's neuropathy out of a store like that, right? Like that, and there was just not a good marketplace for people to ask a couple questions. And I feel like the industry in a whole has really kind of missed that. It's like it's tried to come out like just another supplement, right? Like it gets marketed, it gets produced just like any other supplement line does, but it doesn't address the fact that there's a lot of questions, around this. A lot of companies really focus on marketing this product, which is just getting your brand out there. And people have important questions to ask. Like you said, who do you want to ask about your anxiety? Because you've heard that this can provide relief for anxiety. Who do you want to ask that to? Who do you want to ask about your mother's or your grandmother's pain? It's really intimate stuff that deserves to be treated and respected that way. So that's why I spend a lot of time getting out and getting in front of people. And, I give out a sample packet. Probably most of the people listening to this have gotten one. I hope.
Easily, yeah.
But I can't tell you how many times somebody looks at me. I say that this is just rub it on your skin for any muscle or joint pain, and they just want to ask if it's going to get them high. Nobody's really been able to ask. Maybe they saw it on the internet. Maybe, they saw the product somewhere, but they didn't know how to ask. It's just one simple question, but even if it's been put in front of them, they haven't necessarily been able to trust, that person or that website or, what they're being told. So that's been a big initiative of mine, is to get to people to help them with, this decision.
Yeah, well, so it sounds like you were in sales for,
20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years, almost 2 decades, and you were frustrated with having people breathing down your neck all the time, and you saw a bit of an opportunity where there's this product that you personally believe in, but you see that the way that it's distributed probably isn't ideal, and it's not getting the attention to detail and basically the sensitivity to the consumer that it deserves or really needs for it to be successful. So you saw an opportunity there, and you're like, I'm going all in. So what were
Yeah.
the steps that went along with that?
So we moved to Maine. I got a job at a dispensary. I'm a $12 an hour bud tender job. I mean, really started over.
Cannabis was legal in Maine at the time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It was medical cannabis as a bud tender. So the first thing I wanted to do was get in front of people like I had for 20 years. You know, you sit down in front of people, you find out what's important to them, you find out what their goals are, and you know that's before you even show them around your gym, right?
Yeah.
So just being at the counter and getting to hear what people said, hear the questions that people would ask over and over again, even in a medical cannabis environment, people are looking for something that can help with the pain. Maybe they don't want to be high all day. You know, some people do, some people don't. So they want to ask that question. You know, they don't know about dosing, and a lot of these companies come out and they put 12 different doses in front of you. Well, in my opinion, that's mostly because they want to give you something that you'll buy first. You know, a lower price option, and then step you up over time.
That was one of the first things you communicated to me about your product when we first got connected, was that, you know, in the beginning, it was kind of tough to get your hands on. The product was just under manufacturing, and a lot of the products out there were underdosed and oversold, over promoted. Where now, at this point, and this is probably going back, what, 3 years, 4
yeah.
years maybe? Yeah, because it was this location, so 3 years. You said this stuff's much more readily available, and now everything's properly dosed. All your products are properly dosed, and you know what you're getting, which is obviously extremely important for any supplement. And that's probably the biggest issue in the supplement industry as a whole, is a lot of the times what's on the label isn't what's in the product, especially with all these proprietary blends and stuff like that. I was reached out to by a small handful of supplement companies who wanted to, who wanted to endorse and sponsor me, and they wanted to give me a code and a monthly salary and all this to say I use their product. So I take a look, and I look on the back, and if I see proprietary blend, it's kind of like I'm all set. If the proprietary blend has 12 ingredients, and one of which is, say, citrulline, and I know there should be 2 grams of citrulline or 4 grams of citrulline in the product, and the total proprietary blend of 12 products is 4.2 grams, I know there's not enough of what I'm looking for in there. So that's very, very important. Make sure you have the adequate amount in the product you're trying to sell.
Yeah, and that is what's happened in CBD. You know, you see a lot of buzzwords. You know, broad spectrums, full spectrums, and I shouldn't say those are buzzwords. You know, they all have value, but it's very confusing for the consumer. You know, where do I even start? And that was another thing about making my products dosed strong enough, and I use just CBD isolate and CBG isolate, so there's no THC in it whatsoever. It has no taste to it. You've used it. It goes great in a drink. Goes great right under your tongue, and its best function is as a daily supplement. So when I worked in the store, the price for a proper dose was so much that people would use it as needed. Right, rather than being able to really say, "Well, this is only $2 a day. I can take this product every day." So that was another big obstacle for getting the people to take it every day. Is once you got up to 50, 60, 75 milligrams a day, it was really cost prohibitive to take that. So through making products for the store and seeing how to source this stuff, I also saw that a lot of the price was just the marketing of supplements. We both know that's a huge cost to any of these companies. All the way back to Greg Kovacs and the Muscle Tech.
Oh yeah,
8-page ad reports, and that's such a huge budget for these for supplement products. I saw an opportunity to really go out and capture users one by one.
Because you're fine going out and doing the legwork and actually connecting with people rather
Right.
than buying airspace or whatever it may be.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I've never paid for any type of advertising. I've done some sponsorship of stuff, but I don't do any Google
Like this
ads.
podcast.
Like this podcast.
My man.
Very excited to do that. But I've never paid for Google ads or web ads because, one, I don't know that space at all. I know how to go out and meet somebody and talk to them and give them something to try and create.
It's also just so
stuff.
saturated,
Yeah.
and that's kind of my jam with things like that. A lot of it, I think it's just better if you have an authentic product that you believe in, that you stand behind. You don't mind doing a little bit of legwork. I mean, there's plenty of gyms out there There's tons of supplements out there. CBD's huge. You see stores everywhere. So it's kind of like a lesson I learned a long time ago when you were dropping off a resume and you wanted a job. It's like fucking walk in,
Yep.
look the owner in the eye, shake his hand. Hi, I'm Steve. Here's my resume. Just want to drop it off and just put a face to the name. And if you're looking for something, give me a call. He probably wouldn't even look at the resume because if you show up, you put a face, you make eye contact. You know, it's about interpersonal relationships.
Especially today. You'd probably be blown away if somebody came in and did that.
Especially today.
Especially today.
Yeah. So that's a huge point, and I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
I learned more for the sales process that I do today from just going in and giving out guest passes at stores, at restaurants, and just starting a conversation. And you know, that's really what I do now. I go into a store, I have a wholesale sheet, and tell them about my products and how I've built a little bit of sales process behind it. Which, you know, most of these companies they just want to sell to you, and you sell it when you sell it. We're on to the next. I've really looked and valued in building relationships where I'm helping you sell the product. You know, you have a couple people message me, they're going to come in today to buy product here because I was here yesterday.
Great.
You know, I love that. You know, that's a win-win-win. You know, for everybody. And you know, a lot of these companies, they're, like I said, they're just trying to get the wholesale order. They're just trying to run web ads. They're just trying to use influencers, and they're missing that last little connection between the transaction and the answering the question for those people. I told you before we started here, I think this is going to be as common as any supplement that we use in fitness. I mean, it relieves anxiety. It helps with pain. The topicals that I make, I'll challenge that those belong in everybody's medicine cabinet. Anybody could pull a muscle. Anybody active or inactive. If you have ibuprofen in your medicine cabinet, you should have the menthol topical that I make on hand.
Especially if it's a specific spot, because you know ibuprofen is systemic,
Right.
which is costly, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's great, it's effective, but it's costly. Whereas if you have, you know, my elbows bothering, my knees bothering, my shoulders bothering me, if you could have a site-specific remedy, I would say that's less costly and arguably more effective.
Yeah, and that sort of leads to how I went from fitness, you know, into CBD. So I have a hip dysplasia. I didn't have that diagnosed until I was 27. So before that, it was just like I would roll my ankles a lot. I tore my ACLs a few times, but you know, I'm 42. So 80s and 90s, we didn't have very specific sports training for teenagers. It was the rub some dirt on it era. So at 27, the orthopedic said, well, it's just about managing your pain until we can replace it. Because now I also fell in a window. They got a lot of great hip interventions they do now, but now my hip's too arthritic and beat up. And that stuff really wasn't around in 2005. It was still really like very early. And you know, my thought was, I'm not just going to take pills for 25 years, dude. Like that's your plan?
Yeah,
Doctor?
it's also very, of course it is, because they want to prescribe medication,
Right.
but that comes at a great cost. You know, to
Yeah.
relieve pain using NSAIDs or whatever it may be, it comes at a tremendous cost. You know,
Yeah.
that damages a lot of things, so you can get out of bed and manage a regular life. There definitely is another way, without a doubt.
And I could say pretty confidently, based on my mentality and how I've done most things, that pain management road was going to be a bad ending for me.
Absolutely.
You know, that 2005, you know, that was when it all started, where they started funneling you into that opiate, just dependency, really. So I used cannabis. I always used cannabis for the pain. And now you can imagine the guy that's the manager of the gym. There's a lot that goes into that. You know, I usually smoke in the morning and then avoid people for the first hour or two I'm at work. You know, try to sneak out again later, but then it's the eye drops, it's the gum, it's the cologne, it's, you know, does this one know, does that one know?
There's that cost to benefit ratio we're talking about. It's
Yeah,
like
well,
it's like my pain's gone, but I'm fucking high and my eyes are glossed over.
Well, yeah, exactly. But, you know, I knew the other options were going to be death or organ transplants. You know, I'd be at 15, 18 years of, even if I just stayed with the ibuprofen, you know, where would I be? Where would my kidneys be? Where would my liver be at this point? And I suspect that I wouldn't have stayed with that. So when I got introduced to CBD, where it really did just manage the pain, that was a really big difference for me. And that's sort of what kind of kept it in the back of my mind as my fitness career was winding down. Because as I said before, I've got to like what I'm doing. I've got to have passion behind it. Or I've had multiple jobs where, on paper I should have done great and everyone's excited. And then, I just don't give a fuck about IT staffing.
Yeah.
I don't get up in the morning passionate about that. And, I see people with less talent, but they'll just sit there and hammer the phone and just beg for meetings and, all to create margin for a publicly traded company. And I just didn't get motivated for that. That's actually why I got the hand tattoos first. I got the hand tattoos so I couldn't get jobs like that anymore.
Nice insurance policy. But you know what? I speak about this a lot in speaking to other people who are trying to find their way, trying to find out what to do. Even though those jobs weren't ideal, they all served you very, very well. A lot of the tools and things that you did to be successful, like going into stores, handing out guest passes, talking to people, that plays a huge role in what you do now, and that's why you found success, as well as learning a lot of the things that you didn't like about those industries, like the manipulation and the people breathing down the back of your neck and trying to chasing numbers rather than chasing relationships. That was a huge lesson that I learned at Boston Sports Club. If you remember, for the trainers, they used to print out the monthly highest grossing trainers in the whole company. I think at the time when I was trainer, there was 2,200 trainers, and they had a top 100 list. And it was great to see where you fell, but it didn't serve me very well, because I was very fortunate to be pretty successful pretty quick, and I was in the top 20 of the whole corporation. So I would see those numbers and I would see, all right, I did 148 sessions this month. To make top 10, all I got to do is 160. To make top 5, I got to do 180. So all of a sudden I had this shift where, maybe I wasn't the best trainer, but I was trying to get people through sessions. I was trying to get this guy out and this girl in, this girl out and that guy in. I was trying to sell, trying to make more numbers to hit that 160, hit that 170. And I learned very, very quickly that my numbers were affected negatively. I was making less money. I was training less sessions because I was after the sales. I was after the number. When instead, if I focused on my craft and being a good trainer and actually trying to help people and being passionate and being present rather than looking at my phone to make sure that I was ready for my next appointment, I became more and more successful. I feel like you have a similar gauge because, you were always chasing numbers, but now you found something that you're passionate about. You obviously enjoy talking and connecting with people, and, you're trying to make a living, but the money comes. The money comes if you provide a valuable service.
Yep. Yeah. And, to the podcast world out there, I just want you to know what a fucking monster schedule 150 training hours is. Think about your entire work month if you work a 40-hour work week, and then fitting in programming for all those people, all the extra customer service of those people. So when you say that, I don't think people really understand what.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I would say, 40-hour work week, I would say a full-time trainer would be 10 to 15 sessions a week. That would be comparable to a 40-hour work week. Right. Just because, like you said, first of all, fucking scheduling. It's not 9 to 5.
Right.
It's 6 a.m. to 9, 2-hour break, 11 to noon, and then 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So you're there essentially, effectively 5:30 a.m. until 9:30 p.m. And there's a lot of behind the scenes work, like you said, programming. When I started doing nutrition, people with food, that's a full-time job. And then of course, continuing education. Always learning because it's always changing all the time. There's a lot of different ways to bake this cake of getting jacked, juicy, and tan. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And then also, of course, my biggest priority to a point of a fault was training myself. Because I can tell you, if I had a 3-hour break from noon to 3 and I had a shitty workout, I was in a fucking foul mood for my last 4 sessions of the day. So yeah, it's definitely a tall order. 80 to 100-hour work weeks for the last 12 years. But you know what? The way I look at it is, before this I did construction, and those were traditional 8 to 10-hour days. And then I would go to the gym for 3 hours afterwards anyway. Yep. Half an hour drive there, half an hour drive back. There's your 12 to 15-hour day. So I'd be doing the same shit no matter what I would doing anyway. But it's nice that I get to be in the same place all day because less travel and I get to get more work done. So
And you built this thing. There's a whole, and then there's the whole building something.
yeah,
That's
I was really happy at Boston Sports Club. I was really happy at Synergy for the most part. I never had any intention of going off on my own, but when I was inspired and encouraged to do so, I'm very glad that I did. But that's why I brought up that point earlier when you talked about those jobs that you did for 2 decades that you didn't really feel rewarded in, and it's like, oh well, what a waste. That's 20 years. It's like, dude, not at all.
No,
Those
definitely
20
not.
years literally is how you're doing what you're doing now.
Absolutely, yeah.
There was kind of some legal issues at the last gym I was at. This place, Synergy, phenomenal facility. I mean, $2 million facility. It was like a David Barton Equinox in Providence, and it was phenomenal. And I saw an opportunity, so I left Boston Sports Club to go there, and we were there for 2 years, and I had a great experience. But you know what? I learned a lot. I learned a lot about management, a lot about sales, a lot about running a business. And what I learned the most is what not to do. I would see the way that management would handle things. I definitely learned the importance of being present,
Right.
especially in this industry, being here, being in the gym, talking to members, training yourself. If people see me lifting weights, they're like, dude, this guy trains harder than we do. That inspires people. That keeps them honest, and then that in turn keeps me honest. The owner wasn't very present. He was a good guy. He was very charismatic, but he had other things on his plate, and the business suffered as a result. And there was a lot of lost wages and money that I wasn't paid. And people ask me all the time, like, why aren't you more aggressive in chasing that? Like, why aren't you going after that money? And it's like, dude, why? Because the lessons I learned in that 2.5 years are invaluable to what I do now. I mean, and it's literally what created this venture. And I'm sure you share the same idea.
Yeah, I very much think of a lot of my sales career as just Mr. Miyagi. Like you don't know it until after you're like, oh. And when I see peers, I think that the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs lack when they start a business is the sales aspect. And it doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer consulting firm. You better sell those contracts to somebody with providing that value and making that relationship. And a lot of people go from the business that they're in, or come up with this product that they have an idea for, and they just stay busy, and for me, it was always like naturally going back to, okay, what's the best way to gain users? How do I gain users? I need people using this, and that's been the process that I've tried to figure out, through this time. Yeah.
There's also such value in just being busy, just showing up. I feel like a lot of people I speak to now, and especially with everything that's going on over these last 3 years, no one's working, no one wants to work, and everyone, and in order to work, they want the job.
Yeah.
I want something I'm passionate about. I don't want to do it if I don't love it. I don't just want to go to some job and it's like, dude, you just need to do something for so many reasons. For one, just meeting people, networking, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to be when I was encouraged to go on my own, 3 of my clients, all of which I met and started working with at these other jobs, supported me and gave me some startup cash. I had 2 clients that gave me a $10,000 no interest loan to help me open my first facility. Another one gave me 20. I never would have met them if I wasn't at those other jobs. And also just building, for lack of a better term, the fitness, the stamina to show up to work every day, especially when you don't want to. If you are, in fact, fortunate enough to work to yourself, there's no one telling you to get off your ass and go to work each day. But when you're working for somebody else, you have to show up. And that's something that needs to be trained, and you have to kind of build that capacity to show up and show up and show up. And what better place to do it than a job you don't like going to? And then when you want to go on your own, I'm sure you share the same thing, where you were working your 40, 50, 60 hours a week at your normal job, but you didn't go home and rest afterwards. You went home and you started working on your side hustle. And then that's where the 80 and 100-hour weeks come in. You're doing the 40, 50, 60 at your regular job to pay your bills, and then when you come home, you're working on your side hustle. And then you build that stamina stamina. And then eventually, if your side hustle takes off enough that you can make that leap, that's a very stressful time. But if all your ducks are in a row and you've done everything you've had to do and crossed all your T's and crossed all your crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's, you can you can get started and start working for yourself. But I think I'm very confident that many people will fail if they just start off on their own without 5, 10, 15, in your case, 20 years of just the grind.
Yeah.
And then in addition to all that, it's so much sweeter because that 20 years you put in of doing something that you had trouble being passionate about, now you really, you don't take for granted the ability to make your own way.
I think back to some of the days that I worked for these closeouts. We need to sell more memberships because it's today.
I remember that at the end of
I
each
know,
month.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
BSC had a full sales staff.
Yeah.
And that was a smaller club, and they had
three, four, plus the
six
manager.
full
Yeah,
time.
jeez,
They had 6 full time,
Yeah.
maybe 2 part time, and 4 full time guys. And all they did, guys and girls, and all they did was sell memberships.
Yeah.
Literally, that's all they did.
So I told myself very early on that it would be a shame if I worked harder at other companies than I did for myself. That would be, I can't imagine wasting more potential, putting less energy into myself now, than I did those other companies, because there was somebody, so you got to do this, you got to hit this, you got to work these hours, you got to, no days off till you hit your goal, that kind of stuff. That's absurd. It's absurd. But
It serves
to
you
your
now.
point, yeah, it does.
It serves you
me
now.
now. It's like
It's
that.
fucking easy now.
Like that. It's
I'll do it all
simple
day.
now, and I am so much more efficient too. Now, granted, it's still just me, and my first few hires are robots that fill stuff and label stuff. But I'm so effective with what I do. I spent so many years tied up in reporting numbers to report them at 12, 3, and 7 every day, and putting business plans together on selling more memberships. And there's so much movement in a company like that that's just to make sure you stay busy because we're paying you. Now my everything that I do is it's making my product, it's promoting my product, or it's selling my product, from when I get up to when I get home. Like that stuff, that drive just stays there.
It's also, in a traditional 40 to 60 hour work week, working for somebody else, how many hours do you think most people are actually authentically working?
It's low.
And I'm not coming down on anybody and being like you're fucking lazy. It's just kind of the way, like,
Dude, I think of some of the jobs that I really hated. We get into like the corporate jobs where I would take a sales
just trying
position.
to get through the day,
Yeah, man. I mean, and because I would get burnt out in fitness, and I would go and take a sales, like some type of corporate sales job, and I really hated those. I would gain weight just sitting in an office, and I went through this cycle a couple different times. So the average, I think about that often, like, how much time do people waste? Because now I think about, when do I start hiring people, right? And my goal is to build something that is really so efficient, and focus on building the machine of the business, so that there is no time that your tools are down. We want to build a culture that we're working and we're being effective. And I don't want to pay somebody that doesn't want to be there doing what we're doing. Do something great. I do something cool. I mean, I hang out in dispensaries, gyms, and nutrition shops all day. I mean, it's like a job that I would have. You couldn't even have dreamt of it as a kid because there wasn't dispensaries.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Even when I'm traveling and whatnot, and everyone's like, "You got to go on vacation." It's like, all right, but like when I go on vacation, I go to other gyms and shit. I want to go lift and train and and connect with other people, kind of doing the same thing. I mean, that's a vacation for me. I've never really been the hammock, Mai Tai, people painting my toenails, dropping grapes in my mouth. That's not 5 minutes that I get the fuck out of here. I got to do something. I got to be stimulated.
Yeah.
I got to be moving. So
I don't have something I need to get away from.
Yeah,
Right?
I say that all the time. I don't have a life that I need a vacation from.
Yeah, but my wife, who's home with our 3 kids, deserves vacation. So there will be vacation.
So that's when you go. You go there to help her out.
Yeah, she certainly deserves. She's a trooper. We just had our 3rd son, and she's at home. She takes care of him. She's does online training and nutrition, so she manages her clients in between. does a few online sessions, and really has a business that she can scale. As time
Are you guys
opens
able
up
to
for her.
kind of work with each other? I mean, I'm sure your businesses complement each other. You know,
Yeah.
you
Oh
can
yeah.
work
Absolutely.
with her clients and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. A few of our clients use it. There's a lot of synergy there between the two.
Great.
And actually, you mentioned a moment ago, like that moment where you actually make the leap and work for yourself. And so you're right. I had been working, so I had been managing the dispensary full time. I quit that to take a telesales job because it was just 40 hours straight. There's no, you're managing someone else's business. You're not working 40 hours, period. So I left and I took that job. I had started. I was booking events to do. My original plan was I was just going to sell direct to customer, going to fitness events like you have here, going to CrossFit events, going to just places where there's a lot of people that are going to be in pain, getting out samples, starting those conversations.
Would you say you tailor your company more to the fitness and athletic industry
Yeah,
than
oh, yeah.
general pop?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a split like 60-40, 70-30?
So
I'm sure it's changed over the course of your business.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting because I have the thing that I hear the most often, and it's really, I hear it regularly, and it's super, super humbling, is somebody will buy it because they buy it in a nutrition store, maybe they buy it at the dispensary, but then it works and they give it to their parent, their grandparent.
Yeah.
So they come to me and say, this is the only thing that helps my mother's pain. So I have, it's marketed towards fitness. That doesn't prevent anybody from buying it. It's like Gatorade. How much is athletic performance and how much is hangover performance?
Yeah.
From Gatorade, right? So it is great for the general population. But I
if
kind
you
of
target the fitness industry,
target the
they'll
fitness
kind of do
industry.
the rest for you,
Right,
hopefully.
exactly. Yeah, because these are typically the people in the family that you trust, right? The people that are the people that work out that use
They'll
these
also
supplements.
adopt a supplement
adopt
like
it,
yours
correct.
much faster than a stay-at-home mom
Correct.
may.
And they're also the person that is protecting that parent or grandparent from buying bunk products, that get marketed to them. So it's, I sell a lot in the fitness community, but I get a lot of referrals, that way as well. And then also selling it in the dispensaries, you get people that go in there for a lot of different ailments. So I left the sales job, and I was ready. I had about 10 events booked. It's it's easy enough to go somewhere to set up a table,
The
right?
telehealth sales job.
Yeah,
So you're
I
doing
left that.
telehealth, and you started pushing your product to fitness events and competitions and
Yep.
stuff like
And
that. And there
moving
was that
to-
moment.
I quit the job.
Like, am I doing enough now where I can quit this telehealth job?
Oh,
or
not
what?
even close. But not even
Fuck it.
close. But it was fuck it. And I can't even tell you. I mean, how brutal it went. So I registered this LLC on February 28th of 2020. Those 15 events that I had booked were all after March 13th of 2020. So every single thing that I had on the calendar got canceled. The first actual fitness event I wound up doing was down here like 6 months later because there was nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't build it to be an online store. I didn't know how to do that. I was just stuck with, I had product and I just had to find ways to survive. And those first few months were really brutal. I mean, my $300 months in sales, $700 months in sales, and that's like I got a wife that was pregnant and a baby at the time, and just tried to keep moving forward. However I could, and that's what really helped me to build more of a sales process from it. Was I had to really start working individually. I had to start working through social media. Actually learned a great lesson from you. I saved it to tell it on this podcast. So I had sent you a message, and you had seen the message, but then didn't respond. Now, I'm a salesperson. I don't take shit personal. I get used to that shit. All right, fuck that guy, right? But that's what you tend to do, like in that situation. Well,
I'm trying to remember. This is obviously before we
this
met.
is before we met. Yep.
Yep.
I was just trying to get people to use the product, and you had seen it, didn't reply, and then like a few days later, there's somebody asking you about growing out your hair, and I had just started doing that, and I commented something to what you said, and you replied back, and then you said, "Oh, by the way, I saw that message. I'd love to try your products."
Yeah.
And And that for me was such a moment of, it sounds simple, but a lot of times people get really personal. They get really in that scarcity mentality. They do get in that, oh, he saw it. Oh, fuck that guy. No, and they don't, so what I learned from there is someone doesn't respond, I gas up their story the next time they post something. I say something to start a totally different interaction and see where it goes. And I can't tell you how many times I've realized now, like, Steve was just going 40 over in a school zone and hit the notification on his phone while he was trying to, make a video.
I do all my social media work while driving, so you can't hold me accountable. But no, that's a great
But
point.
you don't know what's going on that other end when it was seen.
Yeah,
right?
and if you would have had taken that person, like, oh, he left me on red or whatever, it never would have happened.
None of this would have ever happened.
Of course, it obviously wasn't me blowing you off.
No.
I may have been in the middle of something and then look back, but what you did was you separated yourself from all the companies looking to try and be endorsed by me and sold at my gym, and made a personal connection,
right.
commenting on my story, and it's that simple. And in order to do that, you have to maybe have a bit thicker skin and not be so oversensitive and think that I intentionally left you on red. So very strong point.
Yeah, so those things didn't bother me, but then like I said, I mean, there's and as accounts are bigger, if you're somebody out there that's trying to do this through those types of things, they just see more. More stuff comes through, and more stuff that does look robotic. Hey, try my product. I mean, really, how different does that
You
look?
see it all the time, and it's so obviously copied and pasted.
Yeah. Oh,
like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what you get. I mean, I think everybody.
You wouldn't believe the amount of watch companies that reach out to me. Watch.
You even have a watch on?
I can't wear a fucking watch.
Yeah.
I'd love to use like an Apple Watch or something like that to track my stats, my heart rate,
Smash that
expenditure.
thing in a minute and a half.
I don't know. I just can't do it. I'm not a big jewelry guy or whatever. I can't wear watches. Dude, I get hit up from watches at least 2-3 times a week, and I'm just like, have you guys even seen my page? Like, I'm not wearing watches.
Yeah.
This is literally my nicest outfit.
They're all the same. It's
You guys have a watch that would go with this?
top straight shirt.
Give me a break.
Yeah, so I've gotten a lot of people to just try product, promote product through that of just being a human, with the process, not just being, not making it always about me, because that was the big thing that I kind of acknowledged in when I was starting my business was it's not time to be pushy, because now this was the beginning of 2020. I can't make anything about me with anybody else. We were all, no matter how you feel today, 90% of people were like, okay, what the fuck is going on? To try to simultaneously honor that and, sell and develop my brand required like true just gratitude of, I'm just happy to give this out. I'm happy to get people to try it. And people talk about abundance, like if you just think about something long enough, it's all going to appear for you. But it's about what you put out first. I can't tell you how I've given away. I think I've given away more CBD than anybody in the last 3 years. I cannot imagine any of these companies giving away as much as me.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, 1 in 100 or more, you give it to a Steve Tripp. You give it to, and it's not always, you have a great platform. You have a lot of people around you. It's also somebody that, just really loves your product as a consumer with no platform, but really tells people about it. Really, is a promoter of your product. So, when people talk about achieving that abundance, well, abundance, requires 100-to-1 ratio output first before you start to see anything, in return for it. So, I really had to build this with the idea of what's going on the other side, with these people. Do they have jobs? Do they lose businesses? Do they, what is their life like?
I didn't realize that you actually pulled the trigger to go on your own right before the pandemic hit. I mean, you had
2 weeks.
everything working against you.
Everything. The only thing I had working for me was a wife that totally believed in me. A lot of people will believe in you doing the things that they believe in. I mean, how many times you hear, I don't understand why he does it. He'd be so good at this, at XYZ, because that's what that person understands. And, when you leave fitness, which is already like a fringe industry to most people, it's a very viable industry, but in most people's mind, And then you go into cannabis, there's a lot of like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. Why is he, why is he
selling
doing
weed?
that?
What's
Why
he
is he
doing?
doing this? you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so she believed in me fully to accomplish it. She never asked me to get a job, no matter. And truthfully, I remembered, and you probably remember this too. After the 2008, 2009 economy, I remembered the amount of people that would sit across from me, and it was the same cadence. Well, I got to think about it because the economy. And it was just like over and over again. I stopped. This is what's going to come of this situation. It's going to be, well, COVID. And I thought, I'm going to hide in some of that for a little bit. Maybe this bill's going to be late. Maybe, this thing isn't going to happen. Maybe, but it wasn't real in my head. We were moving forward and plugging away, but there was sort of that guise of, well, landlord,
It was
it's,
never
COVID.
It was never an excuse to stop. It was
Right,
just
right.
was just an obligation to pivot.
Right.
You still got to push forward. Maybe, obviously, your traditional tactics of going out and meeting people and dropping off guest passes, you can't do that anymore. So what are you going to do? You're going to fucking wait till COVID's gone? No, you're going to pivot. You're going to figure out what to do next to still pursue the end goal.
That exact mentality is what actually pushed it forward. Because I can't say that the company didn't skyrocket in that period of time. But what happened is all the other smart people quit.
Yeah.
All the people that were gonna, a big way that you see CBD brands come out is the same way you see supplement brands. It's white labeled. I'm the manufacturer of my product. I carry manufacturer's insurance. I source all the material myself. A lot of these people they're just buying it from a factory, and you can roll out an online store and they sell you a franchise of it. So 2020 was the big year for that. These factories have sales teams, just like, remember everybody had a gym franchise in 2008. It was 321 Fitness, and all these different things pop up, and all you got to do is give 500 members. Just give us 60 grand.
Yeah.
So it was like that. And a lot of people backed out of that because it was a very scary time for any type of business. So the material price dropped significantly. And now, then I had the ability to wholesale it, because originally I could only sell it direct to customer. It just cost me too much. I could only come into your gym, promote it, and sell it to people that way. I couldn't hit the price points I wanted and sell it through you retail. So it's just a very classic example of just don't give up. Other people are going to give up. When I view starting a business as really two things. One, staying on the island. You got to stay on the island. You got to survive. You got to stay there. And as you're surviving, you're really trying to make the things that are catastrophic to your business bigger things.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you start, anything could fucking harpoon you for good, and as you go, you can sustain a little bit more of a hit for this or that. And like we were talking about before, just reinvesting into your business, really endlessly. But, those first years, it's so critical, and you start to see, everybody talks about a business lasting 5 years, and, you start to see that, okay, you get in your second or third year, you start to do some revenue. But if you pay yourself any of that, that's when you make the administration your profit sharing partner.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
of course, yeah.
We live very, very modest lives. In order for my wife to stay home, and for us to keep investing in the business, we really keep it, grassroots, and that's why I'm really hard to beat. I don't have a big overhead. I'm not I didn't invest, a ton of money that I needed back out of this. I'm the guy that can just keep going and growing. And
You're also covering it from start to finish too. It's all
Correct.
in-house, which
Correct.
it's harder. It's more groundwork in the beginning, but it serves you in the sense that you're on top of everything.
That's right. Yeah. I have a very good heartbeat on the business. I am the heartbeat of the business.
Yeah.
And I think that I feel that this next year or two is really going to be a big turn for these products. Is even in the cannabis space, you know, I go to a lot of cannabis events, and I'm sort of the guy like really pushing to get in front of people, you know, because they'll have growers and edible companies out there and all these like cool vendors, and then there's a CBD guy. Even in that space, this last year, people are a lot more curious. It's like, okay, all right, I've been using the weed for a few years, but my knee still hurts at night. Tell me about this. And I just came from a nutrition store here. Same thing. There's a bigger pickup of people, come in and ask for it. So that's where I feel this next year is going to be big for this business, and really driving my company, Recovery CBD, into more nutrition stores, more gyms, more building a good value-based influencer program. There's put it in the bio. We'll give you 20% of sales, and that just doesn't work with CBD, because again, it goes back to that trust. That why is this guy selling this to me? What does he have to do with this?
Does he even use it?
Does he even use it?
Yeah.
And people, a lot of times they need to try it. They want to figure it out. And that high price point is, I don't necessarily mean high price point. I just mean that first sale is always like, I got to think about it some more.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is to just keep brick by brick in the fitness industry. I mean, I think just about every power lifter I've given it to keeps it in their bag at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that doesn't see the value of it. And I think, I had 5-10 people yesterday that are using it at the meets here before. And, that's really that's really fulfilling, to see what, this is a really good example of building a brand within a community. The people that you've got here, and then, I see the same people at USPA meets in Portland, and out at their gyms, and there's people move, get to another gym, and give the product to someone else to try. So it's been a lot of fun.
I think it actually served you pretty well. I mean, to be as optimistic as possible. You decided to pull the trigger, and the pandemic hit, and you were forced. You weren't forced. You made the choice to see it through, and you made the choice to stick with it and pivot. And now as things are open again, and you're able to travel and do what you would have traditionally done before it wasn't an option, now you have kind of the avenues and the sales and the relationships you've created in an unconventional way when you had to. And now that you can get out, you still have that kind of underlying foundation of sales and connections you've made with the limitations of the pandemic. But now that you can go out and do what you would have done in the beginning, it continues to work. Like my online training was always fine, but it definitely grew quite a bit in the pandemic. I had that option, that service that I could still offer. And then when we opened up at full capacity again, I still have that business and that revenue and that work that was created during that time where I was obligated to only do that. And now it's a nice, it's nice. What's the word? The type of income. Passive income. I mean, it's not passive.
Right.
It's very involved, but it's there, and it's there because it probably wouldn't have developed as much as it did if it wasn't for the pandemic.
Yeah, it like I said, going back to the material price and allowing me to wholesale through stores, too, it gave me a leap on, if you notice the last like 6 months, the celebrity brands starting in CBD are just, it's out of control. Everybody. Martha Stewart has a CBD brand now.
Of course she does.
Martha, you're a G. I get it, but what does that have to do?
leave us something.
Your
will you please?
entire brand. You want me making cakes, Martha? And so I got to be ahead of that. And just that, also that survival mentality again goes back to, I can work all day now. I can work hard. I do have opportunities in front of me. I remember when I didn't have opportunities in front of me, where
it's nice to always have something to do.
Right.
But it's not for everybody. We all know the types who always want to brag and talk about how busy they are when they're really not doing shit. They just suck at executing tasks. It's like, what is busy? Is busy that you have a full plate and you have a lot of things to do, and as you get those things done, more things come on. Welcome to not being a bag of shit, you know?
Yeah,
And
I prefer effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you busy, or do you just suck at executing tasks? because the busiest people that I've ever dealt with, especially being in this industry, you know, who pays for personal training? People with expendable dollars. Not everybody can spend $1,200 a month to work out 3 times a week, and the people that do are very successful. They have very, very tedious, demanding, high-paying jobs. A lot of them have income properties, families, and they are wide open all the time. And you know what? They're never late for an appointment. They never say they're busy. They're just executing constantly. And that is something that I noticed very early on, and I have really done everything I can to adopt that approach. And I really have tremendous distaste for these people who say they're so busy, they're so behind. Because you know what? I bet if I went outside and opened their car door, their car is probably a shit show. There's probably Dunkin' Donuts bags everywhere, gum wrappers, loose change. I bet their home is a disaster. And it's like, dude, no wonder why you're behind. You know, you got to have an organized workbench. No wonder why you're so behind and struggling so much. You know, it's all about execution, being as effective as possible, like you said. You know, just being efficient, and it just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of behind the scenes work to set that up, so that you know you can execute.
I think a lot of these busy people have never felt the weight of being responsible for their income.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a different. You know, what's busy work? Like, I don't have time for busy work. I have time for work.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, Sunday night, every Sunday night before we start our work weeks, our paycheck's at zero.
Yeah.
Right? It's at
Oh,
zero
yeah.
every week.
I had recently where, you know, my paycheck didn't start till like a Wednesday or Thursday.
It wasn't
like,
coming in.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Nothing from the website? Nothing from the, people don't, you know, work a 10, 12-hour day and make zero, you know? And when I was first coming here, you know, I'd sell maybe one or two things. And I'm driving 3 hours
You'd
each
give
way.
out 200 though.
Right. And it was never about what I was going to go and make for today or what I was going to sell for today. It was, this is good for the brand. These are good people to be around. This is the right thing to do. But, you know, and I've done events. I did an event in New Jersey at Attilis last year where I drove down. I gave away all my product. And I was so proud. It was a veteran outreach workout. So they donated, you know, so there's some big brands there too. But I was really proud that I could go down, I could finance the trip, I could stay 2 nights, I could give all the product away, I could donate all the money, and I could do that on my own dollar. You know, it wasn't like I had to go down and make so much money out of this thing, or, you know, I couldn't really afford to donate or anything. You know, it's getting to those points where, you know, you're building something.
It's
You know,
on the
you-
drive.
you're
It's on the
not-
drive home after a weekend like that. That you're like, you know what? Like, I think I can consider myself as successful now. You know, like I'm. This is great. I can go down. I can really put everything out there and not need anything, and realize that I'm essentially investing in long
Correct.
term,
Right.
and I'm in a position to do that. That's a great feeling
Right.
as an entrepreneur or business owner.
Sure. Yeah. No, building something is, you know, go like we were just saying a minute ago. It's totally different than having a job, you know, that you have to go to and that you're just looking to get out of. There's so much satisfaction in watching this brand grow. The feedback that I get, you know, knock on wood, I mean, 99%, you know, good feedback on these products, and really knowing that I'm helping people, and the amount of bottles that I've made right now, sometimes I'm like, fuck, there's thousands and thousands of people, you know, that are using this stuff that I make and giving it to their family members, you know, to help them with pain and the things that are important to them. You know, I like every day being the same. You know, I did 75 hard last year. I did Live Hard, you know, the program last year, and I decided that I'm doing it for this entire year. I'm going to be 42 in next week. I just had my 3rd son. I'm in my 3rd year of this business in what I think is going to be a very critical year for this industry.
Yeah.
I don't have room. You know, I don't have room for a couple drinks. I don't have time to lose this year. This is the most important year of my life.
But it's also something I don't crave anymore.
Right.
I mean, I used to be a huge drinker, huge part.
I think
We've
we had a
spoken about
similar.
this.
Yeah, I think we had similar.
You know, 3 DUIs, a couple months in jail.
Yeah.
And it was never anything that I was like, oh, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. I just looked forward to it. It's something that I did. But you know what? I think a lot of people fall into that trap because they live for the weekends.
Right.
And Saturday, Sunday, here we are. Sunday, 3 o'clock. You know, we had an event yesterday.
Yep.
This morning, I shot up to Mass and I helped out another gym working some car deadlifts for an event he has coming up. I'm here with you, and after this, I have 7 programs to write.
Yeah.
And I am not complaining. I am just saying that I don't have to fucking do it. I can do the programs on Tuesday or Wednesday, but you know what? I want to set myself up for Tuesday and Wednesday to get this stuff done so I can go on to the next thing.
Yep.
And again, this isn't for everybody.
Right. I came down here for this. We did the event yesterday. I could have easily hung out at my buddy's house. He's got a pool. He's got a boat. But I went to nutrition stores this morning. Went to Staples. I had to get some labels. I got some work done with that. I went to nutrition stores locally, dropped off product, and built some relationships. Came here and worked out.
And it's not that we don't do that. I can take a 4-day weekend anytime I want and do whatever I want. But I just tend to choose to work instead.
Yeah,
It's all good.
It's work for me right now. I mean, I've got 4 other people, in the house with me that I've got to accommodate for, and they're, especially the wife. She's down for what we have to do. But yeah, that's the program, the 75 Hard program. Not
for those of you that don't know 75 Hard, Andy Vasella, who's someone that I think any self-respecting man looks up to in some degree. Really, really cool guy. I don't know him personally. I've just listened and watched to him. He self-made, multi-millionaire. He owns First Form, and just a really hard, no bullshit, no frills guy. And his 75 Hard program is one that I know multiple people that have done, and it's very, very simple. It's 75 days. No cheat meals, no drinks. You have to read 10 pages of some kind of self-development book every day, and you have to work out twice a day, one of which has to be outside, regardless of the weather. Is that everything?
Yep. And you got to drink a gallon of water, and you got to take a progress pick. And if you miss any of those, you have to start over. Even the pick. If you miss the pick, the apple will start you over the next day.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a fitness. It's a self-development program that has great fitness benefits to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I look at where I was when I started.
It's about compliance. It's about compliance and consistency.
Yep.
And it sounds doable. It sounds easy, but I'm sure it gets really hard every once in a while.
At this point, it's gotten very automatic for me.
That's the point.
But it's taken me 13 months of grinding on this program. It took me 8 starts before I got through the first time of completing it.
Yeah, but now you're a new fucking human.
A new human. It rewires your brain's reward system over time is what it does. It doesn't make you feel a reward, a dopamine push for, you're going to get a drink in a couple hours. It doesn't give you, it gets to the point where achievement becomes more important in that, it's really when you dig down into the psychology of it. We don't think of, especially guys like me and you, we're very easy to think of the physicality of growing, right? Of getting stronger, of working out with a goal to get to something. I've never really did a good job of looking at that mentally, right? I've read 9 books since high school, and they're all in the last year. I think I read, Da Vinci Code or something because you had to back in the
I'm not much of a
2000s.
reader either. I wish I was. I should be. Maybe I should jump on 75 Hard. But I also think what it does is it removes the first podcast that, when this gets released, the podcast that released 2 months ago, but the first one that I did, I go over the 10 reasons you're not growing. And one of the reasons is these people that pat themselves on the back every time they accomplish anything, like getting a workout, not cheating, not having that drink, reading 10 pages of a book. Now, 75 Hard makes you have to do that every day, and all of a sudden you don't feel accomplished when you fucking work out. You don't feel accomplished when you read 10 pages. You don't feel accomplished because you got through a whole day and didn't eat like an asshole. You just realize, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, or this is what I should do to optimize my life as a capable, disciplined human being. And I think, I know that that's huge, because when people look at me, I'm actually in the process of doing an edit of a video that Tom made for me. People look at me and they're like, oh, dude, hard work, motivation. And I'm like, listen, bro, this isn't fucking hard. Lifting weights the way that I do, following a diet, working 100 hours a week, I'm being sincere. I'm not trying to be a hard ass. It's not fucking hard. It would be hard for me to be like you, to be to be nervous, to be anxious, to feel like I'm not capable, to be approached with a task and be like, oh, fuck, I can't, to be weak, to not be the type of person that has the humility to be able to ask for help when I want to get something done. That would be fucking hard. This shit ain't hard. This is easy. It would be really hard for me to not do the things that we do. That would be hard. And I think it's just a mentality shift. I could tell myself while I'm grinding through a workout, like, "Whew, man, this is hard." And you know what? All of a sudden, it probably would be, but I don't, because it's not hard. It's just the way that it is. And I love that about 75 Hard, that it gives you these what I would consider simple tasks to execute.
It's simple.
But it can become challenging over time. But you know what? If it becomes just part of your day, it's not hard anymore. And now you're this new, capable human, that doesn't make excuses anymore, but finds solutions.
After a period of time, you start to recognize how much everything is just noise in your head, because it gets quiet. It's quiet to the things that I have to do. Look, the program's 2 hours a day. A lot of the people listening to this work out 2 hours a day, right? Or commit time. It's and you're replacing the time that you're scrolling your phone, the time that you're watching Netflix at night, and then there's that other layer of where it really pushes you through, that outdoor workout that you don't want to do, because you think of the last year of New England weather. I've walked outside every single day. Right, and I'm in Maine. I'm up in central Maine, 3 hours north of here. So, okay,
are you trudging through 4 feet of snow? Or
absolutely,
what? I love it.
Yeah. There were days, and and in Maine, once it gets to that point that there's ice on the sidewalks, you're walking on ice, though, the whole time through the whole thing.
But you just get the walk in, no excuses. You just get it done.
Get it done.
No matter how much it sucks, you just do it, and it's that simple.
But then the days, So for this program, if you can complete the whole Live Hard program, there's 165 days you're on the program if you don't miss any days or have any startovers, right? There's a phase 1, phase 2, and a phase 3 after 75 Hard. I struggled with the times that I wasn't on the program, and now I look at it.
Seems like almost everything else falls apart.
It absolutely
does.
It's
interesting.
It absolutely does.
And that is a huge reason and component as to why I chose to do this professionally and for my life, is that I noticed, we all have our own issues and challenges and trials and tribulations of life and relationships and career and everything. But if I'm on here, like you are on 75 Hard, if I'm here, if I'm training and if I'm lifting and I'm getting my meals and I'm getting my rest, I feel like I have the tools in place to deal with all the other shit. Mm-hmm. When my training goes to shit, if I have a poor workout, if I miss a meal, if I'm not executing, all of a sudden all these other tasks and obligations that I have really seem extremely challenging and arduous and just so hard. But when you're on a program and you check those boxes, all of a sudden it's just
everything is clearer and simpler, because
no doubt.
You don't have to think about what you're going to do. I have these 2 hours that I've got to get these things in, and my meals, and drink my water, and my work, and my family. So by eliminating, it's almost like eliminating those 2 hours from being, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
That 2 hours doesn't turn into 4 hours of doing whatever the fuck. You go from one thing to the next. And, a lot of people sort of white knuckle the program. That's one thing I've seen with it is, people want to complete it, but I feel like a lot of people don't totally understand, what it was about. If you're back to who you were on day 1, 75 days after you finished, right? You just have that same degradation as you had that improvement. It's really kind of missing the program. The idea is, and once I could feel it happening, it's hard to explain. I've felt all my muscles grow. I've felt everything get stronger. I've never felt my brain get stronger. I've always been good at figuring things out. I'm not saying I'm stupid or anything, but I've always worked to my strengths. So by sitting down and having to read, I got better at it, and I never really thought of it in that context. I never thought of it like,
actually improving the skill of being able to read, retain information.
Right. And a lot of that came from just doing it,
10 pages a day.
10 pages a day. Goggins' book is in here somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's actually behind the desk. Yep. I'll get on it. I promise.
um, yeah, so I've committed to doing that for this whole year. I've got to zone in, and I think this all started with the people with the balance and talking about that kind of stuff. And no, I'm all in. I don't need any balance. I don't need where's the balance scale land? 0.
Yeah.
Right. We're all in for this year, and the other part is that it gets easier to just go to an event and not have alcohol. It's very difficult the first few times you do that, right? Like you kind of salivate a little bit. Yeah, fucking cold beer would be good, or you avoid those types of events. To be at a point where now, when it comes to sticking to my diet, the backstop for that is I just don't eat. If there's not food there that is part of what I'm going to have on my diet, then I've got to fast, and that's not hard. As far as it's just I'm just not going to have a drink.
And it's
just
much better
matter
to
of
do
fact.
that and be a little hungry rather than feeling
Yeah.
like a big soggy bag of
Right.
shit because you ate something you're not
Right.
supposed to.
And admittedly, I wish I could do that without clicking this fucking app. To be honest, I kind of was bothered by it that when I didn't have this app to click these tasks off, I wouldn't do it the same way.
Yeah.
So that's where I just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna. I need this tool." Everybody's told me my whole life I have no moderation, so let's have no moderation in this direction then.
Yeah.
I've definitely,
Absolutely.
and it's funny because the people that'll tell you that you need a break and don't work so much will be the first ones to tell you to have one more, to take another shot, to order another pizza, and think nothing of where that secondary result is really going to land from those two different actions, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's. If you focus on the immediate result of anything, right, it's really opposite of the long-term result, right? If you focus on eating this food because it's delicious, well, the secondary result is you're going to gain weight, you're going to deteriorate your health.
And it's never just going to be that one meal.
It never is, and it never was, and it wasn't for me even in the midst of this program. It would be so insidious how it would change. It would go from, because like right now, if I throw my kid's food away, I can't eat from French fries off his plate. I got to walk across and throw that food in the trash.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, I could just grab a handful of French fries. And that's kind of the way that stuff would start. Like, grab a couple fries here, have Cheez-Its, animal crackers, no big deal. And I'm at a fucking drive-through 72 hours later.
No
you
doubt.
know,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so for me, just staying in that lane is the best place for me to operate. And like I was just saying, I think we both had those. We're kind of that way in our 20s and 30s. That one more guy, right? The guy that everybody, oh, Steve can Steve do it? Right? Leo will do it.
Yeah.
100 out of 100 times.
If one guy was taking a shot, I was taking
Right.
one with him, then over there and over there and over there. Excess is the only way.
Right.
So probably the biggest takeaways from all, and there are many from the points you just made, is for one, 2 hours a day can sound like a lot, but understanding that giving yourself those 2 hours with these constructive habits are going to optimize the other 22 hours. And you're going to get so much more out of the other 22 by giving yourself these by giving yourself these two. And that is essentially what you're doing is you're giving these 2 hours back to yourself to optimize the other 22.
Yep.
The other piece that you said, which really resonates with me, is that day 76 is day 76. It's not back to day one.
Right.
And I speak a lot about that when I talk about goals and goal setting and how important it is to set goals, but to realize that once you reach that goal, it's not over. It's very short-lived, and it's time to move on to the next thing. So it's like you have this goal to execute these tasks and be consistent to day 75, but it's not over. Like do it in a manner and enjoy and understand the benefits of all 75 of those days that they will then carry over, and those habits live for life. Because I can tell you, as someone who had specific goals, I want this, I want that, I want to hit this lift, I want to win this competition, I want to own this truck, whatever it may be. Every time I've gotten to those goals, it feels good for like 5 to 15 seconds. And then it's like, all right, what's next?
All right. When can I get this truck lifted?
Yeah. but that's the thing. It's like, hopefully, if you are somebody that has been able to understand and develop an affinity towards the process, it's once you get to the goal, it just keeps growing. It's not I get to that goal, check that box, then
Yeah.
back to how I was before I started. It's constantly growing, constantly adapting. No cruise control, no steps back. So that was a huge concept that you brought up that really resonated with me. Is that when I get to day 75, it's day 76. It's not back to day one.
Yeah, yeah, and I was, my entire life, I've lost 50 pounds 10, 11, 12 times, right? That means I've gained 50 pounds, 10, 11, 12 pounds. I've lost 100 pounds twice. I'll really throw it into fucking cruise control. And I really, coming into my age now, I just desperately wanted to be the guy that figures that out. You see the Ethan Suppleys, there's a couple NFL linemen, that they lose the weight later in life and they keep it off. Mark Bell, look at him these days. And I looked at people like that. I just gotta find that thing, that figures it out for me, because even though I kept saying, this has got to be the last time, I'm 35, and then, I'm 38 and, got to lose 60 pounds again. And I'm 41 and, got to lose weight again. I just needed something to ground me that will prevent that, that slow degradation of that, that health. I'll always lift, but I'll be a fucking shitbag about the diet or the cardio or, and then another big thing was the stress of work. I definitely had some jobs where, I would work in the gym and just the last fucking place I wanted to be was that gym.
Yeah.
After a 10, 12-hour day. It's just a little different than this. I'm sure very rarely do you not want to be here.
It's not all butterflies and rainbows.
No, I'm sure,
but I can tell you,
yeah.
in the moments that I get frustrated and don't want to be here, I very quickly remind myself what it's like in other gyms. The 5% of bullshit I deal with here, compared to the 95% of everything that's awesome in any other place. If I was at a LA or a commercial gym or back at BSC, it would be 5% awesome, 95% shit.
Yeah.
And I speak to my staff as well, because they'll get frustrated with X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you want to take a field trip and get a workout up the street, because you'll be reminded right away how good we actually have it. And also take pride in how good we have it, because that's something that we've created. That we're responsible for that. And I believe that it's been created through an authentic process. It's not anything that I say, hey, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, act like this, speak like this, carry yourself like that. It's never been like that. It's just been a collaborative of like-minded people that share the same interests and ideals, and that has trickled downhill. And sometimes it gets frustrating, but very, very quickly we can remind ourselves how good we actually have it, because I've been here for 3.5. I was at my last place for 3, and it's pretty sweet. But it takes, I got to show up. It's up to me, it's up to my staff, and it's up to my members to uphold that culture.
Yeah. No, I've said from day one, this is one of the best culture gyms I've been in, because everybody is aligned here.
Yeah.
The from the member base to the employees to yourself. Everybody is, and I don't mean everybody's on Steve's program. I mean everybody is aligned. They're come here to do.
I don't
work
want
and
everybody on my
appreciate-
program.
Right. No, I know you don't.
Because
I know you don't.
because my programs are derived from learning from other people's programs.
Right.
You have to be fucking curious.
Yeah.
These zealots that think they know all the stuff. It's like, dude, we're not dealing with wood and iron and steel. We're dealing with human beings. There's a lot. It's very complex. You have to be dynamic and curious.
Yeah. I had
without a doubt.
I had a kid. I'll tell just a quick story. So you post a 75 hard pick, the hashtag. There's a lot of people that follow that hashtag or get to that hashtag, and some of them are trainers that are looking to gain business out of it. So one kid follows me and makes a comment about the post, great work, and starts a conversation, DMs me and eventually asks, what can I help you with? And I said, follow the business page, go give some likes, and I didn't even mean it like to ignore what he was actually asking, but like, if you ask me what I need some engagement. I need you to help me with my, that's what I need.
That's sincere.
That's what I need. Yeah.
I'm not some 11-year-old with abs trying to get chicks. Like, I have a business. If you could help me out, that'd be great.
Right. That's what I need from people. And training for me is I just want to work out. I don't want to. I told you I don't like to be told what to do. I don't like programs. I just like. Ever since I was 14 years old in my bedroom with my weeder set by myself. Like that's what that is for me. I'm not here to maximize everything all the time. I'm here to do the workout that I want to do. So he gets the conversation to how he's a coach, and if you just for your coaches out there online, don't say things like this. I'll get you in the best shape of your life if you just give me a chance. And my first thought is like, just take the time to just rip the kid apart, because first of all, you don't know anything about me. How do you know I would want to be in the best? What do you know about the best shape I was in? And how do you fucking know I want to be back there? Maybe it was something that's not attainable with my 3 kids.
Yeah.
So that goes back to just people don't look at what your experience could be. And he thinks that that's a good selling point, that, he's going to get me in the best shape of my life. But, frankly, you don't know anything about me. I've been around, I guarantee you, way better coaches than you that I don't listen to. You think I'm going to listen to you? It's just in that process of just having no awareness of what could be going on the other side,
And all to me as a coach, and I really get uncomfortable when I even refer to myself as that, because I am extremely self-conscious in my ability as a coach and a weightlifter and a business owner, and I believe that maybe it's almost intentional, because I think it serves me to continue to grow and improve. Is my apprehension towards my abilities as those things. But I can tell you from what I know in this business is that is such a foolish claim to make, that I will get you in the best shape of your life, because if I were to say what the biggest factor is that leads to success in the client coach relationship is compliance, is the buy-in, right? It's if you ask me, everything works. 75 hard works,
everything
keto works.
Listen,
veganism doesn't fucking work, but everything else works. But what you need to do is you need to believe and you need to comply, and you have to get them to buy in. So even if he was this amazing accredited coach that's helped a lot of people, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to buy into that, which means you're probably not going to get the results he's claiming you're going to get. So that's kind of my gauge on how I can kind of see right through comments like that, because it just doesn't fucking work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't hold water.
Like I said earlier, we're not dealing with wood, nails, and steel. If I was a great carpenter, I could tell you, I'll build you the most fucking badass three-stall garage with an in-law apartment upstairs you've ever seen. I can, because I can show you, like, look what I built. Like I've done it before. This is good fucking work. We're not dealing with mediums like that. We're dealing with people, and buy-in is perhaps the biggest factor when it comes to being a successful coach. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people, and not everybody's had great results. There are some, enough for me to be successful and own my own gym, that have had great results, but there's many that haven't. And I take responsibility for that. I probably could be more empathetic. I probably could be more thorough. I probably could bend a bit. But you know what? I'm not for everybody. I kind of take pride in that. And I think it's important to have other people within these walls to give those people to, because like I said, it's not my program. My program might not be the best fit for that individual, but being able to be humble enough and acknowledge that is what's gonna. I just want people to do well. When you said earlier that you don't like to follow a program because you don't need to maximize everything, that's exactly what you're doing in doing what you're doing. Like, sure, you're not following a program because you don't want to have 1,000-pound squat and 4% body fat, but what you're doing is you are checking your boxes, you're getting your exercise in, and you're doing what's optimal for you, which is great. And it's so important for people to understand and accept that. And if you want to build upon that a little bit and maybe have a few things you could follow and things you could implement still within the parameters that you've set for yourself, then great. Maybe someone can help you out with that. But what you're doing is optimal and maximal for you, and it's very important to understand that.
And because it's a lot more than every physical benefit that comes out of it. I don't want to talk to somebody for an hour. I don't. That is my time. Always has been in my life where it's just me. I don't have workout partners. I very rarely have had. That's a whole other topic. People show up for a few months. And
They come and go for
they
sure.
come and go. Yeah, and sometimes it's just schedule. It's not to say that nobody works out as hard as me. A lot of people don't, but that's what it is for me. Nobody is going to bring value to that situation because inherently, by being somebody in that situation, is devaluing it for me.
Yeah.
And that's where when coaches come with that, it's like you don't understand everybody, right? And you understand that very well. You don't understand everybody. You're not for everybody. That's yeah.
Through this process of being a coach, a business owner, I definitely hold myself accountable to try and broaden my scope of practice and be able to reach and have an impact on a wider range of people. If I can do that, great. But there's also kind of the understanding and the approach of trying to master, perhaps potentially one day master a certain niche clientele. I definitely lean more towards the strength side of things. I can definitely get somebody stronger. I can definitely improve their composition, I think, depending. But then there's a whole other world out there of general pop and people who just need the appointment. They just need the appointment. They just want to show up. They want to feel good. They want to feel better when they leave than they did when they show up. And it was hard for me. It took me probably a good 6 to 8 years to accept that not everyone's coming here to fucking crush it. They just want to come in here and meet up and be taken through a workout and leave feeling better than when they showed up. And to be honest, those clients, those people that I'm speaking of, are the ones that made this possible. They're the ones that paid the bills. They're the ones that made me able to open my own space and it gave me the opportunity to work with the people that want to compete and want to be shredded and want to be jacked and super strong. So it's important, and I definitely strive to try and appeal to more people and be effective with those people. But I think it's also important to also know where you lie, know where your strengths are, and kind of like Gary Vee, kind of double down on that. But I think it's also important to try and develop and broaden your scope of practice as well.
I think the best way I've heard that said is, you have people that say they make strengths weaknesses. And the first thing I hear with that is you wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's probably somewhere between where that skill set's not going to hurt you anymore and being an expert that you could have been diving into where you're already an expert.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I've tried to make my weaknesses not hurt me. And honestly, the biggest one is that "fuck you" attitude of working for somebody else. That always got in the way.
Yeah.
Eventually, where I'd be moving on to the next thing. That's just another thing. Like, I'll get you in the best shape of your life. Oh, your strengths are your weaknesses. Great, yeah, cool. So, what are your strengths now?
That's a huge strength and a very important aspect to one's character, to be able to authentically and honestly identify what their weaknesses are and realize them and address them. You don't have to make them your strengths, but
Right.
accept them for what they are and like you said, get to a point where they no longer hurt you or deter your progression as a man, as a business owner, as a father, as a husband, as whatever. Very, very, very important thing to do. So we're at about an hour 40, and I really enjoyed this conversation. I didn't really know what to expect going into this, but we spoke a lot about how you started, how you became a business owner, through your process originally in sales, and we also talked a lot about business and kind of not what it takes, because you and I are still fucking figuring it out, but
A long way to go.
no
Yeah.
doubt we're still figuring it out. But I think we had some great conversation, that gave people kind of an understanding of what we think should be the concepts and kind of your underlying foundational approaches when you're trying to start something and some concepts and some strategies and how to do that.
I look back at how much training helped me with business too. I think that people like you and I really devalue what we were doing to ourselves as teenagers and 20 years old. We're just crushing in the gym because we wanted to, because we wanted those results, but learning a lot about pain, learning a lot about pushing through stuff that you don't want to do. It doesn't feel good for a result that's on the other side. And a lot of people like to ask, how much money do I need to start a business? You know, I don't know if anyone's ever asked you that, but it's just a common question in this space. And my answer to that has been it's a sliding scale, and it's dependent on what your ability to tolerate self-inflicted pain is. Because anytime I want to go get a job, there's jobs out there for me. Even with the hand tattoos, there's plenty of jobs. I could make any of this pain stop any day. You know, those beginning of the business when it was hard, you could close up shop and go back to a gym and train any day. But it takes that ability to keep moving forward when you're the one that has the control to make it stop whenever you want. No matter how big the business is, it could go bankrupt and you could go on to your next thing.
More so than how much money do you need to get started. It's like, well, yeah, you probably need some startup cash, but really, how relentless are you?
Right.
How passionate are you? And how much do you really believe in yourself? And do you really think that you'll be able to do what it takes no matter what happens?
Right.
Yeah. And again, you know, we're not pulling bodies out of a burning building here. I'm not trying to glorify.
No, but going back to those days of working for no money, that's
yeah,
those are tough. You know,
I can honestly say I never felt down on myself. I never felt like, oh fuck, maybe I made the wrong choice. I can honestly, authentically say that when I decided to do this, it was just like head down and fucking whatever. Like I'm not gonna stop. Like I don't have a choice.
Right.
And I think you share the same deal. I mean, I didn't have a family or anyone that was dependent on me, which I think obviously contributed to your drive even more so. But it's like, dude, like I was never like, maybe not. It's just like, all right, well, here's the challenge. What's the fucking solution, you know, or what do I have to do to arrive and put myself in a position to be able for there to be a solution? I never got down on myself. I never doubted myself. It was just kind of like assess and execute.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so more so than how much do I need to get started? It's like, do you have these characteristics to be able to make it work when your bank account's at zero? Because it will get there.
It will get there.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, if you're not tough, you might need 2 million to make your first million.
Yeah.
You know? It's that kind
That's
of
the
an
other
answer.
side.
That's
Sure.
the other side. Maybe you are that guy. Maybe you're not going to give up your lifestyle, or you know, maybe you don't. But you know, if you know, I started this business with $1,500 I put on a credit card to order equipment, and I bought 4 pairs of Yeezys and flipped those to other people. And,
Come on.
and yeah. Yeah, I found this site that they guarantee you, and I was in the cannabis community, so there's plenty of people looking for Yeezys a couple years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, Kanye was an original investor,
Whether he knows it or not.
whether he knows it or not. And you know, so we're talking $2,000, $2,500 to get started, and then you know, falling flat on my face, you know, for a couple months. You know, $300 in the first month, 7 something in the second month, and that money needs to go back into, you know, making sure that I have more product. And you know, that's the thing that people don't see, you know, is, you know, when you're starting a business, and a lot of things that people don't talk about is, you know, there's not a savings account. You know, there's not. You get to a point where the cash flow gives you a little bit of security, but the point where you're taking money, paying taxes on it, and then putting it aside for your family to have it, that's a ways away. And I think I started to go over this point earlier. You know, that's what tanks a lot of businesses in the 3rd and 4th year. You want to treat yourself because, you know, you made some things happen, and, you know, then you get that tax schedule. You know, a lot of people forget. You want to buy yourself a $50,000 car, or, you know, spend $10,000. Better have 40% of that lined up.
Yeah.
come
right,
March.
to pay the man. No doubt,
That investment better have been important. That lifestyle upgrade, it better be a big deal, or that needs to go back into your business. You know, and that's the thing that we've really held on is, you know, almost that my savings now is raw materials. You know, if I've got raw materials on the shelf, you know, I've got accounts, I've got the ability to go get new accounts.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of gives me the security of the, you know, what's available isn't so important day to day, you know, but that even takes years, you know, to get to. And you know, you're right. You say it's not for everybody. You've got to have the idea of building something over 5, 10, you know, longer than that. You've been here. How long has Top Strength been?
Top Strength, started
two
6.5
locations?
years ago.
Yeah.
This location, December was 3 years.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on 4, but like 3.5 years here, 6.5 altogether.
But that's a huge investment back in the company to get the bigger space. To
Yeah.
I'm sure there's huge equipment upgrades, and I mentioned this to you before. You've never seen a cable attachment you're afraid of, and
Whatever it is, I'm happy to get it because not only do I want to have the stuff, but it also kind of makes me more excited to come to work if I have this new piece.
Yeah.
My PT, who I'm very, very close with, was hesitant to buy this specific Kaiser air resistance cable machine. It was like $7,000. And he's like, it's fucking awesome, but I don't know if I can spend the money. I said, dude, what are you talking about? Pull your phone out right fucking now and order. I'm not leaving until you order that fucking cable stand. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, do you believe in yourself? He's like, yeah. I was like, I believe in you. I was like, do you want that cable machine? Yeah. I was like, dude, you're being so excited to show up to work every day and take people through exercises on that cable machine. I was like, and you will make it back. I said, order that fucking thing right now. And he did.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. He loves it.
It's a great, and the people with the mind for that machine that can really build value in that thing, yeah, that'll definitely pay for itself with what it can do. It's
Come
way
on.
beyond a cable.
And even more so than that, it's nice to have all the nicest equipment, or what I consider to be the nice equipment. It's really nice to have the nicest equipment and have a great facility to hold it all and all that. But really what it comes down to, and I can say the same for you and your business model after speaking to you, is it's relationships. It's people. It's filling the doors with like-minded people that share your passion, share your drive to share it with. Because that's, I've been to a lot of other gyms. We talked about the other type of person that can start a business, someone with a lot of expendable dollars. So I've been to those gyms, these $3, $4, $5 million facilities. They're fucking amazing. It's ridiculous. But you know what? I go there and I live there, and it kind of feels empty. It kind of feels empty. It stays open. It probably runs at a massive loss. It's probably a huge write-off for whatever else they're making their money on, and it's a beautiful facility, but it feels empty. And I can't wait to get home and train here with this stuff, with all my boys and girls. It's much more to me than that, and I think it's the same for you as well. It's nice to have a product that you think is best, that you stand behind, that you believe in, but it's the relationships that you've created and continue to create and maintain that really adds value and makes your business successful. I truly believe that.
Yeah, thank you.
So with all that being said, I would like to get something in the books to meet again, and we can speak more specifically about your CBD products, what they do, how they work, really kind of sift through a lot of the BS and buzzwords and things that you spoke about, because I think that's something I'd really like to offer to our listeners is kind of your take and your expertise on your products, why you use them, when to use them, and how to use them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So we'll get in the books maybe within the next couple months. And we'll get you on, and we'll really dive into that a bit more if you'd be interested.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot for the time, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Steve.
Be well. Thanks. Thanks for listening, guys. That was episode 6 or 7 or whatever, and we'll catch up with you for the next one. Thanks again.